Skills development determines success in the labor market. It's a strong predictor of stable and quality jobs among young people, women, and other vulnerable and marginalized groups. Skills development goes beyond formal vocational education and training. A lot has been done in the formal education system of Armenia. Despite a steady supply of an educated workforce, employers complain that they can't find people with the right skills. Hence, the vacant positions remain open or filled with unqualified staff. Small and medium enterprises are the main employers in Armenia. They constitute 98% of all registered and functioning legal entities. They still need to enhance their own capacities to absorb new entrants to labor market. Conversely, not much attention has been given in the country to non-formal skills development. So, in this regard, I'll talk to the chairman of the Strategic Development Agency, Mikirtich Ayvazyan, who is our implementing partner in Armenia. My colleague Alexander Gogoberige, who is regional manager for the region of South Caucasus and the regional program RECONOMY. Katarina Walker, who is advisor for vocational skills development at Helvetas. She has provided strategic and technical support to various projects in the Western Balkans and in Myanmar. And Hopsep Patvakanyan, who is an economist consultant of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and is a founder and CEO of the platform Invest in Armenia. Mikirtich, could you explain briefly what is meant with non-formal skills development?
First of all, it's important to recall that non-formal skills development is not a replacement of formal education, which is key and fundamental to every person. However, it can complement it by covering needs or certain aspects that the formal institutions lack. Non-formal skills development is open to any age, origin, and personal interest. It applies diverse teaching methods, and its end goal is not a degree or diploma, but rather pure learning itself. Finally, non-formal skills development, including soft skills and hard skills, supports job finding opportunities and encourages self-employment. In recent years, emphasis on the importance of soft skills has grown all over the world. It's no longer enough to know the technical aspects only for getting a job, but how this knowledge will transform into output, the final output. Many offers trainers of soft skills speak about the so-called 4 C's of learning. Those are communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. These have often been called 21st century skills or soft skills.
And what are the skills that people need to be competitive in the labor market?
Nowadays, we all should admit that we need at least 3 skills to be competitive in the labor market. And those are foundational skills, including basic literacy and numeracy, and those are prerequisites for further education. Technical skills needed to do a particular job, like operating a machine or running accounting, and transferable skills, including things like creativity and communication. Unfortunately, the current formal education system in Armenia doesn't support the learning of soft skills. Its formal education system usually focuses on foundational skills like reading, writing, and technical skills. This leaves a wide gap to be covered by non-formal education providers to teach job seekers specific skills needed in particular sector or employer.
Hopsep, why have small and medium enterprises been less productive in Armenia? How is skills development related to this?
SMEs in Armenia have a tradition of being established not through the general business schemes existing in capitalist world, because of the post-Soviet heritage that it has inherited from the 90s. One of the major issues that SMEs in Armenia face right now is the skill discrepancy, because it's very easy to establish the business itself. It takes you 20 minutes to register the business. It doesn't require any minimum capital requirement. And so this leads to the situation where it's easy to enter the market, but it's harder to operate. Given that you lack the crisis management skills, you lack the possibility of the access to finance, and many other matters that are inherited from the post-Soviet realities that we have here.
Mikirtic, back to you. Relevant, accessible, and quality non-formal skills development is not much so developed in Armenia, with a particular challenge of mismatch between skills development offers and labor market demands. How are you going to change this?
Non-formal education in Armenia has been traditionally teacher-centered or teacher-focused, often viewing trainees as passive recipients of knowledge, following a fixed learning plan and thus often coming very close to formal education methods. Practicing opportunities are very limited, and usually employers seek candidates with relevant job experience, whereas young people, students, should have the first chance for employment and opportunities to learn specific skills for the particular job or vacancy. Therefore, it's very important to increase their self-confidence and to encourage them to invest, to take charge of their learning. The demand for tailor-made student or applicant-driven non-formal education nowadays is higher than ever.
And how are you going to change this within the regional program RECONOMY?
Within RECONOMY project, we will seek to improve the synergy between quality non-formal skills development institutions and private sector through enhancing the capacities of non-formal skills development institutions to monitor the labor market modern trends, improve cooperation with the business sector, and facilitate the introduction of so-called work-based learning models. Using market systems approach and in close collaboration with project partners, RECONOMY will help developing and piloting market-based short-term courses for capacity building of youth and women, which will result in the following: more young people and women will find a job right after the completion of their training courses, and private companies, employers, in their turn, will gain access to better skilled workforce.
Back to Hovsep. How can small and medium enterprises be more productive and make more economic opportunities? And what is the way out?
Firstly, it's through the better access to finance. This is ensured through different institutional changes that we are implementing at the moment. One of them is the introduction of the so-called sub-investment programs, which is basically saying that if you're an operational business and you want to expand your factory or build a new one, the government, through its Armenian Interest Fund, will give you a matching grant or a matching investment to the amount of your actual contribution to the project. At the same time, and on the other hand, it will help you to get the infrastructure you need for the factory. This includes the water, gas, electricity connections, the land allocation, the roads that lead to this factory, and many other matters that the business doesn't really want to deal with in the initial stages of its operation. This is one group of the changes that we undergo now. The second one is on the personal initiative. What we do with our company is the creation of the Invest in Armenia online business platform, which will be gathering two groups of people: the investors who are looking for investments in Armenia in the operational businesses or in the startups, and on the other hand, the businesses that operate in Armenia or the startups that are looking for funds. Another block that we'll cover through this platform is the export catalog. That will be the online representation of all the goods produced in Armenia by the SMEs that will be available for the exports to different countries. And through this pipeline that we've created, this will ensure a more institutional approach to expansion for the SMEs. And the third block will be the legislation changes when it comes to the crowdfunding investments. Since Armenia has a huge diaspora, it's very important for the diaspora to be able to contribute to the local businesses through different financial instruments. But unfortunately, at the moment, it's very hard to use the lending peer-to-peer platforms in Armenia, given the very conservative legislation imposed by the Central Bank of Armenia. So at the moment, the different international financial institutions, along with the Central Bank of Armenia, are working towards bringing the crowdfunding investment legislation to the state where it can get a very high percent of engagement from diaspora and not only. So these are the three main blocks that we're working on to solve this issue.
Hovsed, thank you for your take on how can SMEs be more productive and make more economic opportunities. Now I would like to use this intermission before we go to Alexander to talk about RECONOMY's value addition, to invite our special guest from the Education for Employment project in North Macedonia, project manager Kurt Vitri. Kurt, could you tell us briefly what your project does in non-formal skills development?
Thank you very much for your question, Sabine. Our project, Education for Employment in North Macedonia, is also dealing with non-formal vocational skills development. This is beside of the formal vocational education and training, which is in the state an integrated system. Let's say, parallel system that exists. And for us as the project, we recognized in the first 2-3 years that the providers of non-formal skills are mainly oriented to the further education of people who are already employed in a company, what is in fact not the key target of our project. The key target of our project is to bring unemployed people to employment. So we had to shift after 2-3 years from the fact that we have to take the people, the unemployed people in the field, to find them and to support them on the whole path from, let's say, recognizing them as unemployed to employment. We call these different steps employment measures, which include, first of all, for example, the identification of these people, then in a second step, informing them about the possibilities they have, also supported by the state measures, that they can go to the employment service agency, that they can get their coaching, that they can get training according to their needs. The employment service agency is assessing their personal profile, so where the skills are, where the gaps are, and then also to a next steps when this capacity development has taken place, that there is a match with potential employers. And this gives us a certain guarantee that we are tackling the people which are really unemployed and not just bringing employed people to the next level. That's how we define currently the non-formal vocational skills development.
Alexander, what's the value addition of RECONOMY?
A few months ago, in country pilot projects implementation has been started in Armenia. which is co-facilitated by Armenian NGO SDA. The pilot project is about enhancing economic opportunities through non-formal skills development in the tourism and hospitality, as well as agriculture and agribusiness sectors of the economy, and targeting women, young people, and other disadvantaged and excluded groups. Initially, the pilot was focused on one province of Armenia only, but as soon as first findings came up from the initial research, namely from the assessment of the capacity and incentives of non-formal skills development and intermediation, service providers in the hospitality and agriculture sectors, as well as from the assessment of the market demand for skilled labor for these sectors, it became clear that limited geographic focus was insufficient to meet the goals set by the program and the pilot itself. Therefore, it was decided that SDA, the co-facilitator, will change its focus and expand geographical area from the single province to the entire country. Now, back to your question, what is the value addition of RECONOMY in this pilot? Here, I would like to emphasize on two subjects. A is the strategic intent and B, scaling up. With regard to the strategic intent, here I would like to mention that the key objective of this pilot is a facilitation of sustainability business models development for non-formal skills development and intermediation service providers. And this is expected to lead to an increased availability of non-formal skills development and intermediation service offers that answer to the needs of the employers, or to create self-employment opportunities for the target groups.
How to achieve this?
To achieve this and ensure the value addition, the pilot will have specific focuses on three matters. The first is about facilitating the relevance of the non-formal skills development and intermediation service market, as well as other diversification, offers diversification. And what we mean under the relevance, it's about non-formal skills development, which is demand-oriented, and responding to the orders of requests of both target groups as well as market actors, potential employers. The second is enhancing the accessibility of non-formal skills development and intermediation service via providing availability and access to the training through the promotion of digital and blended training model. Under accessibility, we consider different terms such as design, methods, schedules, locations, etc., as well as their affordability in terms of cost. And the third is about improving the quality of the offer through increasing the internal capacities of the training and intermediation service providers. And when we are talking about quality, we consider enabling the target groups to acquire skills, information, and enter the labor market or start their own economic opportunities, as well as skills and information providers to expand and provide improved offers and services. As for the second subject, which is scaling up, given the fact that the countries of the South Caucasus region have many similarities in the labor market structure and employment, as well as unemployment-related problems, once successfully developed and tested, the model can be shared with counterparts and replicated in other countries as well. The project will seek opportunities to encourage market actors to establish networking with similar institutions in other countries of the region for exchange and mutual learning to be developed during the main phase. So some of the potential scaling up pathways may include strengthening linkages with sectoral market actors and players which are active in the tourism and agriculture in sectors of economy, like between importers and exporters from the region. Another option is establishing joint networks wherever it's possible, for example, training providers in tourism and agriculture sectors, and also strengthening knowledge and learning, as well as information exchange between such actors. So, to summarize, the value addition of the pilot through the RECONOMY program mostly lies in the described strategic intent and scaling up potential and possibility.
How can we address skills development in a sustainable and scalable way?
Achieving sustainability is one of the main goals of each and every project or program that applies market system development approach, and not only. So does this pilot in Armenia. Frankly speaking, it's a bit early to already start talking about the science of sustainability of the Armenian country pilot project itself, or even about scaling up, as the pilot is on the very initial stage of implementation. But I would like to name some factors that we will like to consider during the implementation in aim to ensure addressing skills development in a sustainable and scalable way. One of the very important factors, in my understanding, is selection and engagement of proper market actors in this sense. From one hand, it's crucial that market actors have incentives and are ready to adopt and implement new practices, since usually this tends to take some more time than a direct approach. And from another hand, the readiness of market actors for cost sharing, since cost sharing for the pilot project intervention activities will strengthen the partner institutions' ownership and future sustainability. Another important factor, of course, is that we should not look at this project as standing alone, since it's just one out of other pilots implemented by Helvetas in frame of RECONOMY program. In this regard, it will be very important that to use the best practices and already tested ideas by Helvetas in a number of other countries, like Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, etc., and to seek for opportunities to tailor to the context to Armenia. And to permanently and intensively use knowledge and expertise of the pool of experts, backstoppers in both thematic and strategic areas. And last but not least factor is knowledge management and learning. So to address this skills development in a sustainable and scalable way, it's very important to intensively promote shared understanding among key players like service providers, public institutions, and private sector about sustainable business models in skills, knowledge, and information services. Also to develop and promote tracer studies to understand and improve the impact of non-formal skills development and intermediation services on target groups. And finally, I would name that continuously document and share experiences of the pilot idea through regular exchanges and learning processes with other pilots and initiatives of the RECONOMY program.
Katarina, the pandemic crisis is affecting many industries in an already fragile labor market. Social distancing, downsizing, layoffs, and business interruptions have pushed many into unemployment or losing income sources. For many job seekers, navigating this unprecedented economic shock often means thinking about gaining new skills. At the same time, demand for non-formal training surged during the crisis. Do you think digital is the way?
Well, Sabine, I certainly agree that digital learning or the importance of it has increased tremendously because of the pandemic. Yet, I believe that when it comes to non-formal training or vocational skills development, actually, that I believe that blended learning is the future. So let me explain. We all realized how the pandemic has changed the way we work, the way we learn, and that learning can place remotely on different platforms. We also know that, and this is not linked to the pandemic, that more than 5.5 billion people worldwide, they have mobile phone subscription, and this number is going to rise even more in the future. So that said, digital learning has advantages, many, but also, or same as with traditional learning methods and the content, these advantages really depend on the quality of the learning content itself and the platform used. So if these preconditions are in place, let me just share maybe 3 advantages. One is the flexibility for learners. So I can learn at any time, at any location, at my own pace. This can be especially interesting also for gender equality, as it allows women who still take care of household work of the children in many countries, so they can learn maybe in the evening. Then digital learning is adaptable to context. So once a certain content is digitized, we can use it in other contexts. That is also very important in view of the costs that education and training has. And thirdly, digital learning is student-centered, it is personalized. So for instance, gamification elements, they definitely can increase the motivation and thus contribute to better learning outcomes. But, and it's quite a big but, I would say, in vocational skills development, I believe digital learning often isn't enough. Many vocations don't allow for remote training at all. So to learn a new profession or to increase your vocational skills, we often need practical sessions. We need a certain equipment. So while this might be possible in some professions, maybe like cooking, where students can watch learning videos and use his or her own kitchen as their lab, this isn't possible in all professions. And just this small story, last week I was interviewing one of our partners in Albania, in the RECONOMY Albania project. And the owner of this training academy, it's in the culinary world, she told me that how important actually it is to show one-to-one how to hold a knife correctly. So that said, certain elements of learning, they are really hard or maybe in some cases even impossible to replace. Maybe such as real-life tutors, who not only impart, the vocational skills, but also the interpersonal and the social skills, which are of highest importance, especially during your adolescence. So concluding, I would like to stress out that for non-formal training, what we need are blended learning that combine digital learning with face-to-face learning formats like on-the-job training.
Are development initiatives making a difference in the way people are acquiring skills during the pandemic crisis?
Many development initiatives around the world, they have supported host companies, vocational schools, non-formal training providers in continuing to deliver their programs. And that has actually a lot to do with the way these skills can be imparted, or the participants can acquire them, these vocational, entrepreneurial, or life skills. So I think the pandemic is not only a challenge for the young people, but also for the teachers and trainers. They had from one day to the other, they had to switch from teaching or training face-to-face to digital or blended formats. And we know how that the digital competence, they are really key for the learning outcomes of the learners. In case training could still happen, like practical training projects could support, the schools or the SMEs on how to best adhere to the sanitary, the hygiene measures that were put forward by the different countries. Or they could work with training providers on how to adjust their offers, let's say through marketing support, through capacity development, so that they actually could come up with attractive learning formats that were then also asked for by the audience, and also coming from the development cooperation perspective, also to reach out to marginalized young people and make them attractive and accessible for them. So let me give you maybe some examples from the Western Balkans, from 3 countries. So in Albania, our SDC project, RECI Albania, supported 4 non-formal training providers on how to diversify their training offers during the pandemic. And through this, courses could be delivered in online or digital and blended formats. And this really increased opportunities for women of rural areas and for vulnerable groups. Then in Kosovo, the I project, also STC project, they have supported an innovative training provider in the welding sector. So the pandemic put forward some restrictions on how to move, so the personnel could not move. And anyways, I think in general, in the metal processing industry, companies are reluctant to send their workers to training and certification due to busy work schedules. So this innovative training provider actually came up with the idea to deliver the training in a mobile form. So now there is a van that is now a mobile training service, and this van is cruising around Kosovo and thus imparting the practical skills to the welders. And last example from North Macedonia, a neighboring country again, where the Education and Employment Project, also an SDC project, really was supporting various initiatives that push for digitalization in education and skills development. So, for instance, the project invested in building up the capacities of the key personnel on how to deal with digitalization in skills development. And so, for instance, the Swiss Competence Center, the SWIVET, they, through webinars, they trained people or staff of the National Vet Center, but also teachers and trainers on the blended learning pedagogy. And another example from North Macedonia is how the project supported the various actors of the vet system, be them private or public, in building up a matchmaking portal that allows for exchange between the vocational schools and the host companies. And so this platform will primarily serve as a platform for matching the students with interested companies that can impart or deliver the work-based learning. So let me conclude by supporting different initiatives, maybe as just the last one of this portal, that is something needed also in times beyond the pandemic. Actually, development initiatives can contribute in making the vocational skills development system more adaptive and also more resilient.
All right, thank you for watching another round of Inclusive Blog powered by RECONOMY. The episodes, including this one, are now also available on Spotify, so you can listen to them on the go. Whether you agree or disagree with the ideas expressed by our guests, please send us your feedback in the comment section below. We have interesting topics coming up, so stay tuned and hit the subscribe button. This was Sabine, a communication manager at RECONOMY, a program of the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency implemented by Helvetas in 12 countries in Eastern Europe, South Caucasus, and the Western Balkans. Thank you for tuning in and see you soon.